Sabrina, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience one more time?
Of course. Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name's Sabrina. I run multiple different companies, currently with a focus on a international press company where we get you guys featured in the press. I'm very excited to be here today, Aaron.
No, we're excited to see you. So this gives us an opportunity to talk about small businesses. And as you have many a small business, and I think you're the perfect person to be able to give us some insight of what small businesses are going through at the moment, the challenges they're facing, how they can use software to help them. So before we talk about any particular piece of software, what sort of challenges do you feel like they're facing at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I definitely feel that there is not enough transparency in terms of when it comes to numbers and how important they are in the business. Because yes, we make decisions using our gut and what we think should be right, but a lot of that decisions also should be based on the numbers. So which projects are working well. You can forecast into the future. Now, I did study accounting and finance in my MBA, but I do feel like there's so many things that I don't know that I didn't know, which will hopefully be really useful to other small business owners that I'm very excited to deep dive into today.
And I think that's important, isn't it? Because for you, like what to expect, but even now you're still learning each and every business, because each and every business is completely different, isn't it? So there's no one solution fits all. There's always going to have to be that requirement for you to think about this particular aspect or think about that aspect. And I suppose that's when having a good group and team behind you can be really beneficial, can't it?
I think so. I think this is kind of a really important aspect when we're talking about business, in the sense that I have a great strategic and marketing mind, but there's never, as much as I studied or wanted to throw myself in, I'm not going to know 100% about my accounts compared to my accountant, because it's what they do. It's their speciality. It's kind of like, Aaron, you go try to do your own press strategy and, it would just take you a lot of time out. So I feel like having an accountant that you can trust on, having a group and a team that you're working with is the most efficient way really for you to save money doing your accounts, and also to make sure that you've set it up right so that you can start making future business decisions based on that too.
Exactly right. Okay, so I think we should go directly into the software and how the software can help, because what we've learned more than anything through Boffix is that if you get the right software behind you, then it's never going to solve all your problems, but there is an opportunity there for you to be able to understand quite a bit of what's going on. And what we've also found with clients is, especially during this time, during the pandemic, during all the uncertainty, then understanding real time how your business is doing, what impacts things are happening, how the government grants can come in, all of those sort of aspects is actually really, really crucial. So you tell me, what is it from your point of view, from a business owner? What do you need from software? How does it help you run your business?
Yeah, I think the biggest aspect of software is you're relying on software. You're not relying on people. So by being able to create integrations, be able to automate as much as possible, it's going to give you a lot of your time back. So I think that's why, as a business owner, yes, you have your core team, but I think it's really important to expand through software rather than expanding through staff. Obviously, both are important, but software has a very, very large role to play in it. And it means that it's very transparent. You know exactly what's going to happen. You know the procedures and how it's going to work. And at the same, it comes to accounting as well.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. I think with that, what we should really do is actually bring up software that we recommend to small businesses. So I know it's a software that you've seen before because you've utilized and used before. But QuickBooks itself is one of those pieces of software where many people have different involvements with it. And I think it's one of those where, as a small business owner, you are going to have to pick some form of software. So we're not necessarily saying that QuickBooks is right for every single piece of business out there, and for every different business is going to just use QuickBooks. But I think for most of the small business out there, actually using QuickBooks is going to be beneficial to them. And I think one of the key things is how they use it as well, because a lot of times when small businesses start up, they're going to have different ways in which they're going to interact with software. Is it going to be that they're going to do all of it through the software? Are they going to have every ownership of it and they're going to know every little button in the software and how that works? Or are they only going to be utilizing it as a once every month, once every week sort of thing, and just care about the top figures and how their business is doing? And I think it's really important to know that there is that capabilities there. So Sabrina, you've seen obviously QuickBooks before, you know QuickBooks to a point, but what is it that you want out of a piece of software? If you could start again and create your own perfect piece of software, what would you want from it? And I can hopefully then show you how we can do that in QuickBooks.
For sure. So from kind of a business standpoint, I think it's all about knowing your numbers, right? So exactly, if you, for example, let's say you have, I know this one's 60,000, but let's say you have a £100,000 contract come in, a 6-figure contract, or 10,000, whatever we're going to use. How much of that can we forecast in terms of its outgoing? So, for example, if you're given a commission or a referral, how much that is going to be future costs? So let's say that you've got £20,000 out of that, which is supplier costs. What distribution is that going to happen over the amount of time? How much of that is tax, VAT, etc.? How much is corporation tax? And with this £100,000, okay, cool, it's going to come over the next 6 months. These are all of my costs per month. This is the amount of tax that I need to save per month. So you're always on top of it, rather than waking up in the morning and going, I have all of this money, where's it meant to go and who's it meant to be allocated with? You can wake up in the morning and you can say, I know exactly where every single penny is accounted in my business. And therefore, by understanding this within your business, and this is a lesson I wish, I learned it when I was like 21, 22. We had a very lean business, but I wish I learned it earlier. I wish they taught it in school. But when you have this amount of business and okay, cool, well, this month I have this amount of income coming in, I can therefore put it towards money generating activities. I have this amount to invest into stuff. I have this amount to invest into a new project. And therefore you're able to play with your money rather than not knowing where exactly you're at.
Amazing. And I think the key word there is all about cash, and it's all about you explaining there what all small businesses go through at the very beginning, which is that heavy reliance on cash flow, heavy reliance on understanding how much money is coming in, about that budgeting, about understanding how much money they've got available to them. And I think the importance bit for us is to be able to showcase that as a business, you can understand your cash flow using software. So that's a really great segue there, I think, because one of the things that QuickBooks has recently brought into its software, and it's something that only came out in the last year, but I think is really important to what you're talking about, is the whole idea of what they call cash flow planning. So the idea here is all I've done is logged in at this point, and I've not had to press anything, I've not had to touch anything, but I'm being presented with what's called my dashboard. And even on my dashboard, cash flow becomes a huge aspect of it, and it becomes center stage of what's going on in my business. And you can see that as soon as I've logged in, I've now been presented with my cash flow element. And just like you said there about that money, about how much money comes in against how much money goes out, against how much money comes in, about how much comes out, that's been presented to me in a graphical format just here. So it's telling me that historically, so it always starts on historical data. It's saying historically, if I look back, I was receiving X amount, I spent Y. I received X, I spent Y. And if I need to, I can even bring it into a line format. And what that's going to do is it's going to tell me what my running cash flow was at that point in time. Now, that's great to know, and that gives you confidence in a business. It lets you know you've been doing things right, going backwards, and it makes you understand that you were on top of your business and you had money to pay. But that's obviously not any benefit to you whatsoever, because that's just historical data. The key and the bit where it gets exciting is that this cash flow balance doesn't just look at what happened, but it starts trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. And that's when you can get really, really clever with it. And that's when small businesses can get a real amount of help and can understand what's going on. So from this one dashboard, all I'm doing is getting pretty much historical data. Again, really great, useful piece of information. It's going to give you confidence, going to go forward. But on the left-hand side there, you'll see there is actually a whole section for cash flow. And as soon as I click into there, this is where kind of the magic starts to happen in terms of what it does. So what it does is it reads your bank statement and it looks back through that period that we've just talked about. So in this case, it's going back from April all the way back to July, and it's showing you what your cash flow position was there. But then what it's going to do, it's going to take those transactions that happen on a regular basis and it's going to predict them forward. So it's giving you an opportunity to look at what's happening in the next 3 months. And it can safely predict that because it's got the data behind to look at it. What it also gives us an opportunity, if we want to, is to start looking at a further date range going forward. And we can start looking into a 24-month period. And we can start really looking into where we think the money is going to go and how our business is going to do. Now, it's going to be much more difficult for it to predict long term what's going to happen, but it's going to give you some sort of indication. It's going to let you know. And what we found has been really powerful with our clients during this stage is we can also use this as an opportunity to start adding transactions that only affect your cash flow. So they're not going to affect your VAT return. They're not going to have any indication on any of your aspects of QuickBooks. So all your statutory elements are going to be absolutely spot on, but you can start adding transactions to it to start understanding what the impact's going to be. So if suddenly you've got a loan that's going to be started to be repaid at a certain date, or you've got to start investing in a new staff member at a certain date, or whatever it's going to be, you will have the opportunity to be able to start adding those transactions in. And with this being live and online, and even though you're not in the country at the moment, we can have that conversation with you, and we can talk to you about it, and we can have those conversations about, well, what if this happens, and what if that happens, and we can have those conversations about what's going on there. So I think the cash flow planner, it was only just released this year, and there's still far more enhancements that is going to happen to it. But I think it's a huge step in terms of going, right, okay, let's think about what we can do as a business. We've also learned that in the last QuickBooks Connect is that they're going to enhance this to have interactions with your bank account as well. So at the moment, it's just going to be with the QuickBooks Bank, which is a whole new bank that's going to be created. But the idea here is you're going to be able to pick and choose when payments come out. So if you've got a payment that's due out and it's going to send you overdrawn, you have the opportunity to pick it up and say when it's going to be paid at a later date. So you're going to have that kind of interaction, that way of being able to play with it going forward. Is that something you think will be quite useful to small businesses?
Yeah, I think that's a very useful flow. I think it'll be very interesting to see the way that QuickBooks adapts it. I like the aspect as well, like we have a risk mitigation strategy within our business. So for example, once a month our HQ members come together and we go like exactly what you just said. What if? Like, what if this happens? What if this payment fails? What if we have a new bill coming through? And being able to adapt that and change that, I think is quite nice. So you're always kind of staying on top of it. So yeah, I'm very excited for that to be adapted in QuickBooks.
Brilliant. And what else have you kind of seen in the small business world? What else have they been needing from software at the moment?
Yeah, I think obviously cash flow is a very important one. I think also to understand kind of where your cash is coming from. So for example, if you're selling a variety of different products or different service, you know specifically which one is generating the most amount of income. And then within that, you can also see what your margins are on all the different products. So you know specifically where in your accounts all of the money is distributed in terms of the different sections.
Amazing. Okay, so this is where QuickBooks can really start helping you in terms of starting thinking about really what we would call advanced reporting. So as a user of QuickBooks, then hopefully you know that from a reporting point of view, you jump down into reports and you get all of these different reports available. And to be honest, even as an accountant, even people who use it all the time, it can be quite overwhelming by the amount of different reports you've got as you start scrolling through this list. But there are certain key reports where if you can get your head around and you can understand them, you can find them to be really powerful for your business. So as a visualization aid, let's look at one of my favorite ones, which is profit and loss. But not just any profit and loss, but profit and loss by month. So this is kind of going into what you want, but then we're gonna expand on it in a minute. But first of all, using your profit and loss by month, at the very top here, we can choose what date range we need to look at. So do we want the last 365 days? Do we really want this to be up to date? Is that the information that's going to be needed? And then as a monthly profit and loss account, you can see nice trends of how that's going. So you've got your income streams that are coming in here. You've got your expenses that are going out there. You've got your other expenses that might need to be accounted for. But putting in a profit and loss by month view makes it feel like you're in more control of it. You understand that these expenses are happening on a monthly basis. You understand what your kind of run rates are going to be, because you can just quickly see that during these last couple of periods, we've been really lean in the last 4 months, but we had really expensive months in November because we had tax bills and things like that to consider. So you're going to be able to see straight away visually how your business is kind of being reflected to from a cash point of view. So that's the month one. I always recommend people get to grips with that first, because that's going to give you as a business owner understanding of how your business is doing on a month by month basis. See the peaks, see the troughs, see how that's going to affect. But what you want, though, there are ways in which we can use this display column as, and at the moment it's put to months, but we can go down into customers, we can go down into classes, we can go down into locations. And just showing you those customers as an example gives you that idea of having those different customers and the expenses related to them, giving a profit on a customer by customer basis. So the data, or the ability to see that data, is available in QuickBooks. You just need to have that awareness of how to go around the reports and find the right reports. Now, what you can do in QuickBooks is, once you found that perfect report for you, top right hand corner, you have the option to press Save Customization. As soon as I save that customization, so let's do profit and loss customer. If I ever need to come back to this, I literally go back to my report section, go to custom reports, and there's my custom profit and loss by customer just there, meaning I can go and record that. What you can also do, and this is what we try and set up for clients, is you can actually set it so that it gets automatically sent. So you can set a little schedule here of every, let's say, month, that actual report can be sent to a particular email address, and you can set it to automatically do that. And that can be your trigger point to start thinking about commission that you might need to pay, or whatever it is that you've got to use that information for. But you can set QuickBooks to automatically start helping you push that forward. Does that seem like something that's going to answer your queries? And is that something that you think clients and small businesses are going to be able to use?
Yeah, I think it's really important, right? I think that kind of brings us into the conversation of, how often should you check those reports, and, what specific reports are going to be really useful to your business. So, for example, if you have a one-off product, you don't want to use customer by customer. Then if you have a subscription service and you want to calculate what that expense every month, is super important. So having a little play around, I think, is really important. I love the automation in it as well, because that then is a trigger for every single month. As a reminder, check your reports, check your notes, and making sure that's going to the right section of the team. So then they're really involved in the numbers. I think a common mistake, in a sense, is when you're starting a business, not letting know your team numbers. They need to understand the health of their business. I personally think that, providing that you've got that trust level, etc., that they should really understand how the business works, and also understand the numbers, because their decisions, if they don't understand why you're not making a decision, for example, it's because of an expense, or it's because it impacts something else. If they don't understand it, they won't get it. So actually, if you play by numbers and you're transparent in terms of, these are our costs and these are our incomes and this is how the business is running, I think it's a very impactful business, especially if they have a percentage of the business, because then it's going to be an incentive. Now, I'm not saying that everyone in your team should understand the numbers and everyone should understand the individual departments, but your core team, if they have a percentage or if they're working on some kind of commission, it's really important for them to know too. So I love the report aspect.
Yeah, especially at that beginning stage as well, isn't it? It's so important. You're going to live and die by how your team goes and how your team is invested in your business. So letting them understand, it's not every penny that comes in doesn't just go into your back pocket as the owner. It is that there is legitimate business expenses, there's legitimate business cash flow going through. I think that just gives that sense of you are a team, you are working to the same common goal. The more money the company makes, the more money that they can be remunerated, the more money that you can bring on more staff to help them with their, they may be snowed under at this point in time, or whatever those conversation topics are going to be. I think having that honesty with them is really, really useful. And I think just on that point as well, we've touched on kind of all those reports that we've looked at in terms of kind of just your pure numbers. But QuickBooks is also starting to look at what they've called the performance center. So they've kind of taken that criticism on, that not everyone likes just looking at numbers and looking at a table of numbers and how those numbers react. People like that visual aspect of it as well. So this has been again added in the following year, and the idea is it's giving you those snapshots of how your business is doing in a more visual format. And I think this is something that is going to, over time, this is going to basically replace the reports that I certainly know and love. But I think this is going to be more important to people going forward, because having that visual representation, understanding a graph that's going down or going up like we've got here, is critical, isn't it? And people can straight away understand it and go, okay, something needs to be done, or okay, we're doing well. So I think, you know, this sort of visual format going forward is going to be so important.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I think especially when you're having your meetings, you want to spice it up, right? It's easy, it's easier to see your diagrams than it is, to see a few numbers on papers.
Definitely. All right, Sabrina, again, being the expert in this field, what else is it that you find that small businesses are, you know, struggling at the moment? What do they need a hand with when it comes to their software and supporting them through these times?
So, especially as there's like a massive ongoing business, there's a online business, sorry. You have different customers coming from all around the world. So you have some customers who are coming through your website, and this may impact, depending on your business, your VAT and your non-VAT registration. So, as an example, another example being when somebody pays, for example, on Stripe or PayPal, how is it automated into you? How do you automatically generate an invoice for your customer? When do you know to generate a VAT invoice? How much of this can you automate? How much of this do you need to have a team member doing time in? So really understanding what the integration process is from, you know, as soon as you made a sale, to the contract, to the payment being made, to that then automatically coming into QuickBooks, and how much also time you will save once you have that set up.
That is a fantastic question. So this is all down to what we would call our integration process. So the beauty of QuickBooks is they have a whole app store. So as you saw there, I just typed in www.apps.com and it takes me to my app store within QuickBooks Online. And those questions you're asking now have become prevalent so much more in the last 12 months because more and more businesses are looking to go online. They're looking to expand their or diversify their income as much as they possibly can. And doing that has resulted on more people going online. But as you've already said, that has become a big minefield for a lot of them. So one of the beauties of this app store is that there are so many different types of apps in here that can help small businesses, ways in which you can integrate so much of your business. So from your human resources to your customers, to your taxes, to your analytics, to all sorts of different options are in here. But what you really need to talk about is integration. Now, one of the key players in this is one company called OneSAS. In fact, if I use this search bar, you'll be able to see it easier. And if you go into OneSAS, you'll see that there are all of these different integration options directly built into QuickBooks Online. And QuickBooks saw this as such an important aspect of it that they've gone and bought OneSAS themselves. So it was announced in the last couple of months that QuickBooks has basically acquired this company called OneSAS. And the idea of OneSAS is, as you can see on there, all those different integrations are all available to them and all able to be able to bring into QuickBooks automatically. And that's all about basically taking those different platforms and using QuickBooks as your central hub for them. So having the ability to bring in your eBay and your Amazon transactions directly in, your Squarespace if you started to sell online, your Shopify. The one they've not got at the moment is Stripe, but I know they're definitely looking to bring that one in. But even Stripe, there are other opportunities out there. There's other ones out there which will bring that in for you. And again, it's all about making sure that if you've had something happen in one platform, you just want QuickBooks to be told about that and deal with that accordingly. Now, it is a minefield out there in terms of how these connections work and which provider is the best one, because there is a whole raft of different providers out there. But I know that there are plenty of content out there, including our channels, on how to make sure that you're getting the right connections for the right different types of providers. But once you've found the right one, you'll find that, like you said there, about integrating and saving time on your staff, you will find that you're going to more than definitely pay for it when it comes to putting those integrations into place. Hopefully that's giving you some insight onto integration stuff.
Yeah, no, I think the integration point you just touched on was really interesting. I'd love to know what your top 3 integrations are with QuickBooks. Be like,
juicy question. I mean, that's like me picking my favorite babies, though. That's a little bit harsh, isn't it, really? Okay. So my favorite children within the App Store are as follows. So the first thing that I absolutely love is I love finding information that's going to be presented to me in a better way. So we've talked about reports, we've talked about there and those dashboards in that performance center, but there are even more stronger dashboards. So if I type the word dashboard into there, So there is a dashboard called Live Plan. And the idea of Live Plan is basically what you're doing there is you're connecting not just your data that you've got from QuickBooks, but maybe your CRM platform. Maybe you've got a Stripe, like you said before. And the idea that way is it's creating these really dynamic dashboards for you that you can share, you can put onto the back on of TVs in the office and things like that. And it gives you that opportunity to have real-time information beam directly to there. So what we use that for in Boffix is we've got an opportunity to have our CRM solution, which is HubSpot. We've got our YouTube channel that's coming through on there. We've got analytics from all these different aspects, and including QuickBooks means that we can have one dashboard that's basically bringing all that data together, which is telling us if our business is going in the right direction or not. So I absolutely love that. And I feel that but those visual ways of showing it and having all the different data connected means that we have the opportunity to really deep dive into it. I've kind of already shown this, but I want to show it one more time. The acquisition of OneSaaS is an absolute game changer. So for the example of doing things like Squarespace or any of those ones, being able to actually integrate these with a solution that is now backed by QuickBooks, meaning that they're going to make sure that that connection's absolutely spot on. They're going to make sure that it's going to be able to be able to do on a much more regular basis. It's going to be able to be more robust, means that we're going to be able to get data from things like Squarespace, from clients already having those platforms they trust and having them through and bringing that data directly into QuickBooks. And as we're going forward, as real-time information becomes more and more important, the more data we can feed into QuickBooks, the more it's going to be able to do for us. That cash flow planner we talked about, that's all going to run on making sure that we've got the most up-to-date data in there. So if we don't already have up-to-date data in, we're going to struggle to be able to get that data in there. And then my final one, because this is the guy that we do our podcast with, have to give him a shout out. Ash Beeston created a brand new app that basically makes your fixed assets work for you. So fixed assets within the accounting world is a bit of a dirty word because it's one of those where from a client's point of view, they don't really understand the importance or why we have to deal with it in a certain way. At the end of the day, you've spent some money, you just want to show that going through your accounts. But fixed assets is being made or forced to be done from us by HMRC, by Companies House, as a way of dealing with bigger transactions. So you can buy a computer or a car or anything like that. Then we can't just put it through QuickBooks and just forget about it. We need to spread the cost of over the asset over the life of it, and it can get really, really complicated. And for someone who just doesn't really have any need or want to learn about bookkeeping or anything like that, it can take so much time for them. So the idea of NetTracker is it just makes fixed assets make sense. So literally you tell NetTracker you've had this new asset, and it will deal with all of that for you. It will do the complication bit. It'll make it all work for you. And at the moment in the UK, we have our super deduction tax coming through, meaning that fixed assets are going to be more and more popular because we're getting more money back for them. And I think that's going to be something that if we can make it easier for people to track their fixed asset, that means that ultimately they're going to get more tax back. And I'm sure everybody wants to get more tax back. These were my top three, Sabrina. Hopefully you think that they're useful and hopefully can find out that they'll help other businesses down the line.
100%. That's very, very interesting in terms of the integrations. And I think also that does lead on to a future topic, which should be talking about like what kind of integrations you want to have. And a little bit, I think what a lot of businesses would use is like how elaborate we make these dashboards, which different areas of a company should be seeing which different dashboards, which would be very useful, for example, the sales in comparison to marketing, and then which ones we want to share as well. So I think that's definitely a future topic there, Aaron, to be discussed.
Yeah, you're such a tease, really, aren't you? And I think that's important, though, isn't it? Because even though we're small businesses, we still need to feel and act like bigger businesses, don't we? Because these KPIs that you're talking about, they're so critical to a business either flying or a business just floundering along, isn't it? So if you can have that discipline as a small business and actually look at those KPIs and understand them and be, enticed by them and then see them on a regular basis, you're going to be in a much better position, aren't you, going forward?
100%.
Brilliant. And I think for that, then we'll call that a day. We will definitely be looking at more tips and tricks with QuickBooks and how we can give you some ways of which we can make sure that you're using QuickBooks to the best of ability. Because I know from personal experience that Sabrina herself needs a little bit of coaching in terms of how to get the most out of QuickBooks. So we might as well bring you along with the ride as well. So hopefully that's given all your questions. Sabrina, is there any last words you want to give to the Boffix community?
Yeah, I would just say, like, it's an ongoing journey, right? The more you understand as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, the more that you're willing to listen, to ask questions, to deep dive into topics. Like, there's the biggest asset that you have is knowledge. So the more that you can utilize other experiences, utilize Boffix, and utilize the technology that they specialize in, I think it's very, very powerful. So if you're not already, then just start understanding the numbers and get your team understanding the numbers, and it will just, if I did this in my first year of business when I was like 20 years old, I probably would have saved like 85K, which is a lot of money for a business to have saved if they just, if I looked after things more. So I just think it's so important that, you really think about it, you're proactive about it, and you actually take action to these videos as well.
Couldn't say better myself. Brilliant. Well, Sabrina, as always, thank you very much for giving your time today. We'll be banging on your door and making sure that you come and give us some more content down the line, because I know the whole community loves seeing you on here. So with that, thank you very much. And hello, and thank you for watching that video. What you may not know is this channel that you've watched this video from is part of a wider group. That wider group is called Apple Core Production. And the 3 channels that we have involved are as follows: Aaron Patrick, the QuickBooks Chat, Boffix Tax Tip. Finally, we have Apple Core Live and Geeky. All the links and everything are down below in the description, but it really means a lot to us if you can go and give a like to the other channels as well.